This is the Texas Standard. I'm Joy Diaz. In early June, Allen West, one of the men challenging Texas Governor Greg Abbott, was in Dallas for a conference called the For God and Country Patriot Roundup. At the time, West was chairman of the Texas Republican Party. Now his focus has shifted to a run for governor. And West wasn't the only big-name speaker at the event. Former Trump National Security Advisor Michael Flynn was there. So was Representative Louis Gohmert, a Republican from East Texas. But the conference wasn't your run-of-the-mill political gathering. It had ties to QAnon, a conspiracy theory-driven movement whose followers believe that a global cabal of sex traffickers and pedophiles is actually running the country, which is not. Many of the people who participated in the insurrection at the Capitol on January 6th were active in the QAnon community. Now that West is running for governor, his relationship with QAnon is sure to come under greater scrutiny, but he's only one of a growing number of Texas politicians who have at least dabbled in the QAnon community. Joining us now is Steven Monacelli. He is an independent journalist based in Dallas who reported from that conference, and he's also the publisher of Protean magazine. Steven, welcome to the Texas Standard.
Thank you for having me.
Can you briefly describe the core beliefs of QAnon?
Certainly. The QAnon broader conspiracy theory includes a number of beliefs. So in many ways, it's sort of like a choose-your-own-adventure of conspiracy theories. But the key ones that tend to come up across the news and seem to be shared is that there is some sort of, hidden cabal of powerful people that are controlling the United States, if not more, and that oftentimes they are viewed as either satanic, pedophiles, or both. There are a number of sub-beliefs that are common within the broader movement. And so, it's not a uniform set of beliefs, but it's certainly an interwoven quilt of theories and beliefs that have drawn a large number of people into its fold.
And one thing that is interesting is that government is for the people, by the people. So I have heard of a lot of QAnon supporters who are running for local government. Can you talk a little bit about them?
Certainly. So I attended a conference here in Dallas where QAnon fans were explicitly encouraged to run for local office, get involved in school board races, and other sorts of political activism. In North Texas, a number of candidates and sitting elected officials have posted QAnon-themed things on Facebook and social media with explicit references to sayings and hashtags that are really only used within the QAnon movement. So, my hometown, I grew up in Colleyville, Texas, and the mayor pro tem, Bobby Lindemuth, posted Q-themed posts on Facebook several years back. A former Arlington mayoral candidate, Ashton Stauffer, also posted Q-themed posts on Facebook and interacted with Lindemuth's posts. This is, brought scandal to a Keller ISD school board race, as well as a Tarrant County College school board race with allegations that candidates were believers in QAnon after one of them posted a Facebook profile that included a very recognizable hashtag, where we go one, we go all, which is associated with the QAnon movement. And there are currently 3 different congressional candidates across Texas that have all posted things related to Q in one form or another. One of them, Samuel Willis, has denied believing in Q, but the other 2, Johnny Teague and Mayra Flores, don't seem to have distanced themselves from their support of that broader conspiratorial movement. So at this point, there are at least a handful of examples of local and state level or even congressional races in Texas where QAnon believers have either won office or have aggressively sought it.
And I mean, you are so versed in QAnon that you are even referring it to as Q, right? And you recognize the hashtags. Um, but for the people who are plain ignorant, if
Hmm.
I am looking at something like this and I don't dabble in that, what am I looking for?
So that's a great question. It can be a bit difficult because some of these things uh, morph and change over time. But
Hmm.
some that have been popular include things like hashtag the Great Awakening or hashtag WW1 WWGA, which stands for Where We Go One, We Go All, which is cribbed from a movie called White Squall and has been spread across QAnon forums very broadly. Others that have been associated with the theory include even hashtag Save the Children, which it became very popular last year in fall, and I believe has still been used to this day by some posters. And that was tied to their belief that there were children being abducted, kidnapped, and had some of their bodily fluids harvested for some nefarious purpose, or sex trafficking, or for these alleged pedophiles. On the one hand, there are a large number of these hashtags, referring to things like the deep state, but on the other hand, they change rather quickly, just like the QAnon movement itself seems to generate new sets of beliefs, particularly in the face of previous predictions or beliefs having been debunked.
So, when you see someone like Alan West announce that he's running for governor, what does that mean to you about the possibility of QAnon taking root in Texas politics?
That's a great question. So, for months, Alan West has suggested, through his actions, participation at QAnon-themed conferences, and his inclusion of the term "We Are the Storm" on official Texas Republican Party posters and as a slogan, that he suggested that he has embraced, if not aligned himself in some way with folks that are a part of this movement. He wasn't the only one that was at a recent conference here in Dallas. Congressman Louis Gohmert, the Agricultural Commissioner Sid Miller, all three of them will be speaking at the CPAC convention, the Congressional Political Action Committee convention here in Dallas, which starts this Friday. What it signifies to me that these individuals appear to continue to align themselves with this movement is that there is a broader adoption of some of these beliefs within the mainstream of the Texas Republican Party, and that these beliefs have then filtered down to local political organizations. There's one local political organization here in Dallas, the Dallas Jewish Conservatives, that's hosted a number of speakers that have also spoken at QAnon conventions, and they've hosted a range of other conspiratorial-minded speakers. And so taking this all together, I believe that there is some concern that the most extreme part of, conservative ideology that is in the United States at this point, is increasingly bleeding into the mainstream, at least in Texas. These overlaps signify that at the very least, major elected officials are unwilling to distance themselves from some of the more outlandish and, potentially radicalizing theories that are prevalent within the QAnon movement.
Steven Monacelli is an independent journalist based in Dallas and the publisher of Protean magazine. Steven, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.